continuous, constant efforts as we adjust to life on campus during a pandemic. It's a different life, but it's here on campus. I continue to see students across campus wearing their masks, using our new hammock stands, finding creative ways to socialize safely. I'm so grateful for all their energy and efforts at this. And I want to thank everyone who is doing their part to keep us all safe. Today, we're going to talk about our efforts to support students academically during these unusual times. We have with us Vice Provost for Student Success, Amber Williams, and she's going to discuss the resources and strategies for students. I'm also joined, as always, by Provost Zomchik and Dr. Spencer Gregg. So we're really going to focus on two things today. First, we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to talk about isolation counts and positive case counts. And then we're going to talk about student success. So as we pull up the graphic, I want to reiterate again that this information is on our coronavirus website. It's updated every weekday morning. And I also want to remind you that it takes time for exposure to the virus to show up as a positive case. So many of the increases we will talk about today are the result of the start of the semester. I also want to remind you that this chart that you see here is positive, active cases. So, and Dr. Gregg may say a little bit more about that, but once a student is no longer in isolation, the numbers will come back out of this. So it's active cases at any point in time. So what you see for August 31st, and again, let me remind you, these are the numbers entered as of last night. We currently have 198 active positive COVID-19 cases. 193 of them are students. That is the green line. 5 are employees, combination of faculty and staff. Again, as we've said throughout, we look at all of these numbers. We look at the nature of the curve, how steep it is, how flat it is. I'm constantly looking at faculty and staff. And so I'm very pleased to see that that number has not gone up at all. We now have a total of, let's look at the next one, which describes our quarantine or self-isolation situations. We now have 1,045 people in quarantine or self-isolation. Of those, 981 of them are students, and the majority of these students are in quarantine or self-isolation, either at home or off campus. So take a look there. The green part of the bar represents students who live in the dorms or Greek houses who are self-isolating, and the blue represents those students who live off campus who are self-isolating. We've also identified, and let's look at one more, let's go to the next chart that speaks to the next thing I wanted to talk about. We have, the last chart has not changed that much, so I'm going to skip over that circular chart. We have also identified 2 more clusters. And I want to remind you that a cluster, as we've identified before, is either one case where there are 5 contacts related to the same event, or it's 20 or more close contacts that are related to a single case. So we have 2 more clusters. You can see they're in 2 sorority houses. We've added Delta, 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 and Alpha, Delta, Pi. Contact tracers are in touch with those students and are able to effectively do the work needed to identify and test close contacts. And I want to thank everyone involved in that who's been contacted, who is giving their contact information. That's working. Now, we've received a number of questions about the support we provide students living in sorority and fraternity housing. Let's talk about this for a minute. Over the summer, each house submitted to us, Office of Student Life, their operational plans to the university. It included specifying how each house would provide for quarantine and isolation space when what would be the areas, how they would handle that when there is a positive case in the house. We've had a few bumps in implementing these plans, to be honest with you. Now that we're into the semester, we see some opportunities to improve that planning and to get the implementation of those plans working in a little bit better way. Dr. Gregg and Vice Chancellor Cuevas are beginning a full review of all those plans and a site review starting today. And we will work with each sorority, and fraternity house to ensure there are plans in place that address the proper health and safety standards and that can allow house members to quarantine or self-isolate in their houses if they choose to do so, following the guidelines that we're getting from the County Department of Health. So, Dr. Gregg, let's go back to the numbers for a minute. What do you see in those numbers? A sharp increase, and then it looks like a little bit of a decrease. What does that tell you in the number of active positive cases?
Well, we're reaching that 2-week point of when classes began. And so individuals that had initially been placed in quarantine or isolation over this period of the past 10 to 14 days have been gradually dropping off of our active case count. So that dip is what we're seeing, a reflection of that. Unfortunately, we're also seeing that the number of students being exposed to infection continues to go up. Some of the increase in positive cases are a reflection of exposure of new individuals that have occurred since classes began. And these numbers are going to continue to rise, especially if we're not implementing the health and safety guidance that we've encouraged, which is primarily practicing social distancing, avoid being within 6 feet of others for more than 10 minutes. That way you're not a close contact. Washing your hands and avoid group settings outside of the classroom.
And wearing a mask. You forgot that one. The most important one. Okay, so Dr. Gregg, one more thing on those numbers. Can you talk a little bit more? I know we've talked about it before, but let's do it again. The self-isolation form. Why is it important? Who fills it out? When do you fill it out? And what it has to do with our ability to implement our plans?
Well, I think we need to get some clarification. You know, every day we ask students, faculty, and staff to complete a daily health self-check app. And that self-check app is a way for us to monitor people's exposures on campus if they develop symptoms on campus. When you submit that, your answers to that each day that you're going to be on campus, then you're either going to get a screen that pops up that says you're good to go, come to campus, but follow health and safety guidelines, or you're going to get red lettering on a screen that says you are not safe to return to campus. And then it's going to provide you a link to our self-isolation form. And so you need to go complete the self-isolation form. That self-isolation form is what advises our contact tracing team that you need additional guidance. And additionally, that's not the only way of accessing the self-isolation form. Anytime, if you know that you've gotten a test result back, let's say it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you saw your private healthcare provider out in West Knoxville, and they've contacted you and told you, hey, your test result came back and it's positive. Then go to the UTK COVID website, go to when to self-isolate, pull up the self-isolation form and complete it. Other cases besides a positive test result that would require you to complete the self-isolation form would be if you're developing symptoms that you're concerned could be related to a COVID infection, we want you to complete it. If you've had a test and you're awaiting the results of that test, please complete the form. If you've had close contact with someone that you know is diagnosed with COVID-19, you need to complete the form. If someone from the health department or from the contact tracing team tells you that you need to complete the form, then please do it. And then there's also the category of certain travel risks that may require you to complete the form as well. But the key to getting a response from the university is not to call the Dean of Students office, the Student Health Center, the university housing. The key to getting a university response is completing the self-isolation form. So again, I want to make sure that we distinguish between the daily health self-check app, which everyone is requested to do every day, and the self-isolation form, which select people will need to do if they need to self-isolate.
Thank you. And I want to reiterate also that another reason the self-isolation form is so important, it helps us, our planners, in being able to know how many isolation spaces we need, how many quarantine spaces we need. That is critical. And so I want to say thank you to everyone who's doing it and just encourage. And if there are parents on the call, please encourage your sons and daughters by asking them, do you know where that self-isolation form is? Are you using it? I mean, have you used the self app? And encourage that. We need to all work at this together. So thank you very much. Dr. Greg, go ahead.
Chancellor, if there's one other thing I'd like to note, as everyone can see, our numbers have been going up. Our contact tracers are working diligently to reach out to each and every person that completes a self-isolation form, students, faculty, and staff. And because of that, there will be a delay. Someone will not respond to you immediately, but they will respond. So in the interim, what we're asking individuals to do, if they're at home, try to stay at home. Avoid being in close contact with other people until the contact tracer has spoken with you and a plan has been set into action. If you're living on campus, then we would encourage you to stay in your room as much as possible. That doesn't mean that you can't go to the bathroom if you need to. It doesn't mean that you can't go get something to eat, bring it back to your room and eat it if you need to. Go pick up a prescription if you've been advised to do that. It doesn't mean that you can't leave your space. It just means avoid doing it if you don't have to until the time that you've spoken with a contact tracer and they've set your individual plan into action.
Thank you, Dr. Greg. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about student success. We continue to get questions and comments about helping my student be successful in class and what do we need to think about. So really from the beginning of this pandemic, our first priority after ensuring the health and safety of our community has been ensuring that our students can be successful and progress towards their degree. Our three goals from the beginning were stay healthy and hopeful, progress towards degree, and be creative, compassionate, flexible. So I want to talk about the progress towards degree. This semester is unlike any other we've had in the history of our university or in higher ed in this country. But our goals and mission remain the same. So let me just remind you, this semester we're offering three different types of course. One is face-to-face. I'm teaching a face-to-face class tonight. We all wear our masks and we're engaging in conversations around a topic. And we're in a classroom where people are able to stay 6 feet apart. The second type of class is strictly online, where everything's online. And the third is hybrid, which is a mix of in-person and online. So let me give you some statistics on how our students are populating those types of classes. 20% of our undergraduate students are taking entirely online classes. 20%. 75% are taking at least half their classes online. So a student's classroom experience is different than before. And for many of them, it may be the first time they've ever taken an online course. So this means our job is not only to help our first-time students through transitioning to college, which we would be doing anyway, but also to help students navigate this new way of learning. So we've received some questions about how students can stay connected with their classmates and professors in online classes, and for information about what the resources are that we have available. So here today to help us with this is Dr. Amber Williams, our Vice Provost for Student Success. Dr. Williams, thank you for being with us. And I want to ask you just a few questions here to get started. So would you talk a little bit, Amber, about this semester from a student success perspective? What is the same? What is different?
Yes, so thank you, Chancellor, for inviting me to be here today. You know, as I look at the experience on our campus, what's different is that we, in some ways, the scholars have more flexibility. And what I mean by that is that they have the opportunity of the different modalities of classes, whether it's in person, online, a hybrid approach. So, but the cool thing about that is they're still being taught by the same amazing faculty that they would have been taught from before. And what's different is that flexibility piece, right? So our scholars have this opportunity to take an online class, but in a hammock. I just saw a young person as I walked up to the building, they were sitting on a hammock in class with their earphones in. What's also different is that we're engaging our students outside of the classroom in unique ways. And what I mean by that is we have more flexibility in how we're delivering our services. So from academic tutoring to supplemental instruction to study groups that we have for our courses, those are delivered both in person and online. And historically, those have only been delivered in person. And so to be able to have that flexibility and how you receive your services, I think is a really cool option. The last thing I would say is some scholars are feeling like they're disconnected in this environment. And I just want to reassure our students that there's still opportunities for them to engage. For instance, tomorrow there's going to be a Rocky Topics conversation from the Dean of Students office. Or Thursday, there's going to be a movie night. Come join us for The Last Jedi. That's going to be out in front of the Union. Socially distanced with our mask on, but hey, we're still going to watch a movie together as UT scholars. So there's lots of ways to get engaged. I think it's being intentional about finding those connections, going to our website, connecting with staff, and we'll help you navigate the system.
So let's just drill a little bit on learning online, because
Yeah.
it's different in a lot of ways than learning in a traditional classroom. Some students do better with it, some students struggle more with it. So what strategies can students use to help them in this kind of a setting online?
Absolutely. So first, on our student success website, which is studentsuccess.utk.edu, we have an online academic guide which helps students kind of understand what they should do to navigate an online environment. But simply what that guide says is, first, you need to understand your technology. So understanding Zoom and Canvas and the systems that we use. And there's some directions there on how to use those systems. Second, it's really important to stay organized. So understanding the syllabus and what our faculty are asking of our students, making sure to keep stay focused on completing our projects on time. And also the other thing I would mention is study habits, having really strong study habits. And it does require you to hone in on the project that's due, getting it completed, and making sure that that happens. One thing I will say is, if you are a student who's struggling with maybe study habits or staying organized, our students have academic coaches that can help you with strategies, help you think through what's the best way for you to be organized. Every person is different, their organizational style is different. And so we want to help our students customize or co-create what makes sense for them to be successful in this environment.
So you mentioned there, well, all of our new students, you want to talk about this initiative, this 3-person team, and then let's also talk about, well, upperclassmen might be struggling too. So well, talk about this new initiative, success teams.
So our first year students, for the first time, we're all assigned a fall success team, which consists of 3 people: their academic advisor to help them, navigate the academic schedule and their major and their minors. There's also an academic coach, which is someone who really, I like to say, even the best athletes have a coach that challenge them and cheer them on. And so we have academic coaches for all of our students who can help them kind of plan their personal well-being and academic plan for the semester. And then third, we have our one-stop counselors, and they work with students on what I like to say is the business of being a volunteer. So financial aid, enrollment, how to enroll for courses, that sort of thing. So that 3-person team is managing a case of students, and they work together to manage the case of students. So it's really nice to know that you've got 3 people who have your back. So if our first year students have any questions, all they have to do is contact directly one of their 3 members of the Vol Success teams. For our upperclassmen students who don't have that direct, assignment in the same way, you can still contact your academic advisor. Every student on our campus has been assigned an academic advisor. They still have the opportunity to contact our academic coaches through the Academic Success Center. We are doing coaching both in person and online, so you have the choice of which direction you want to go. And we have on-call coaches that are assigned to students as they call in. And definitely the one-stop is always available to help our students think through their financial costs and enrolling into classes on campus. So it's slightly different, but the resources are still the same. People are still there to help.
So it sounds like basically anyone who's struggling can go to your website, which, can you say that again?
Studentsuccess.utk.edu.
I'm so excited for all the programs you're rolling out. I see students across campus, and they tell me that they are, excited to be here, and that actually the spirit of students seems really good, regardless of the modality. So we want to thank you for the work that you're doing. So any student who needs help can go to the website. We got a lot of resources available, encouraging people to reach out. Don't struggle alone, and don't wait, right?
Yes, don't struggle alone. And I should have said, and this is I meant to say is honestly, your first line if you're struggling in a class is to talk with your instructor. See what resources are available from your instructors. And I will tell you, our faculty have done amazing work of kind of connecting and making sure that we have resources available to our students. So really, that should be your first contact. But you also have your coach and your advisor as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
let's just spend a minute with Provost Zomchik. Thank you again for being here. Can you talk a little bit about the work our faculty are doing, just to transition from what Dr. Williams just said, to help ensure that students are successful and how that's different this semester? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What do you know about Dr. Zomchik?
Thank you, Chancellor. I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that we're hearing is that faculty are facing some of the same challenges that our students are facing. I mean, this is a brand new landscape for so many of us. And so what we're trying to do is provide faculty with support to manage the technology challenges. We all know that technology is great until it's not, working the way that we plan. So we have faculty fellows, faculty technology fellows, who are working with our faculty to help them with their Canvas sites. And we also have a group of helpers that we're calling producers who can help with technology issues in the classroom. So what we're trying to do is to free up the faculty so that they have time to pay attention to the students in just the way that Dr. Williams described. I've been so impressed by the way our faculty have really rallied to the call here. They're really aware that this is stressful for many of our students. This is a new way of learning for them. And they're reaching out to students who are quarantining or isolating because of the pandemic. I mean, I just think that what they're doing is that they're answering the call to be compassionate. And we're going to continue to remind our faculty that the most important thing for them is to be flexible, to be accessible, and to be compassionate when their students sort of hit those challenges, whether it be a requirement to turn in that self-isolation form, or whether it just be struggling with the typical academic challenges that we all struggle with and all have memories of struggling with.
Okay, thank you. That's so helpful. Anything else just from a faculty member's perspective, would you
So
say?
I just want to sort of echo what Dr. Williams said, that if you're a student and if you're having difficulties, make sure that you sort of able to identify what the difficulty is. If it's a technology difficulty, don't contact your instructor. Dial 974-9900 and get someone from our terrific OIT office to sort of walk you through whatever snafu you're trying to deal with. If it's help with managing all of your classwork, time management, reach out to Student Success. There are so many dedicated and compassionate people there to help you. But if it's classwork, email your faculty member. But remember, and this is something that Dr. Gregg said, just as our contact tracers are getting large volumes of email, our faculty are also getting large volumes of email. So you may not get an immediate answer. Be patient. If you feel that too much time has gone by, send a reminder email. Finally, keep in mind that you can get in touch with your academic advisor. They can be very helpful resources to you and may be able to sort of be a go-between between you and your faculty member.
So I want to thank Amber and John for being with us. And in closing, I want to say that as we all continue to navigate this new reality, I just want us to continue to be compassionate with one another. Somebody said it the other day, like, let's be generous with grace. Assume the other person's intentions are really good. We won't get it right every single step, but we will make continuous corrections as we go.
Mhm.
This is difficult. We will get through this together. And I know we're going to be a stronger volunteer community for it. So please take care of yourself, stay safe, and let's look out for one another. Thank you, and I'll see you again on the call on Friday.